What's the scariest space fact / mystery in your opinion? Mobile black holes. Here's one closer to home. The Kessler effect is the theory that a single destructive event in low Earth orbit could create a cascade where satellites break up into tiny fragments, taking out other satellites, breaking up into smaller fragments, and so on, until the Earth is completely surrounded by a massive cloud of tiny flying death shrapnel, which would make leaving this planet almost impossible. If you look up how much space debris there is already up there and how many satellites currently orbit, plus the continued growth of the commercial space industry, I think about it a lot. You should read 7Fs. It could get worse. 7Fs takes it to the extreme. Great book. The concept is also explored on a much smaller scale in Peter F. Hamilton's Fallen Dragon. It's not even one of the main points of the story, but basically a planet purposely creates a 7Fs-like event using an asteroid, meaning that, while they can't leave for thousands of years, no one else will be able to get in either. Holy shit, I know Peter F. Hamilton. He was my neighbor about 10 years ago. No fucking way. He's one of my favorite authors. Moon's haunted. Hive noises. Hive. Bring a sword. Ever gone on a road trip and hit a patch where you're just driving for hours and you don't see anything exciting? I've experienced this in Australia, Canada and USA, all very large countries. Imagine doing that for years, traveling to another planet, only to find out that due to a small rounding error, your ship is 100th of a degree off, and your centuries off course. Rounding error or imperial metric differences, or as they say, the only people who have ever been into space used metric, cause it blew up when they tried imperial. On the surface of Mars right now is a blurk. God help us if aliens find that first. You need to answer this, and it is vitally important. What Blur CD? Beagle to crash landed with a Blur album saved on board its computer. The intent was to broadcast the music playing from the surface of Mars. The second vital question: does that album include Park Life? If not, all hope is lost. Voyager 1 will outlive planet Earth. Edit. Wow. Didn't expect this post would generate so much interest. Couple of clarifications. First, I was referring to Voyager 1, not 2, so fixed that. Which is not to say that Voyager 2 also won't also outlive planet Earth. Second, my source mentions that it is plausible to imagine that Voyager 1 will outlive our planet given how incomprehensibly vast space really is. You can watch the interesting and rather fun video here, https://yao2b/pmmhfhwflqq. Who knows how long that thing will last. Maybe it'll never be found. And Lofarians, until its atoms begin to decay. My commander in Elite Dangerous is actually going to go check it out. You can actually find it roughly where it would be in the year 3306. Holy shit, really? This fucking game. Man. So cool. Is there a place I can look up the coordinates? Just go to Sol and use your FSS to search for it. It'll show up as Ancient Probe. There's also a tourist beacon next to it. Not scary exactly. More unfortunate, if anything. But we'll probably never be able to properly communicate with alien species. Given the amount of distance between the planets of our solar system, I'd assume the distance to other universes and galaxies is too far to think about right now. If we receive and send a message right now, by the time we hear a reply back, we would probably be a completely different government and societal system. We would just be constantly introducing ourselves. Yeah, they'd really have to do all the legwork on that one. Literally physically get to us for any communication. Gamma ray bursts. We could be hit by one of these with very little warning. And if it was reasonably close, in universal terms anyway, could wipe us out rapidly or cause a ton of damage. Dark matter / dark energy. The fact that about 95% of the universe is made up of matter we can't see or detect is pretty unsettling to think about. Also, while not a fact per se, I like to think that perhaps the answer to the Fermi paradox is that there are billions of advanced alien life forms out there, but they are physically unable to reach us due to technological limitations. Perhaps interstellar transport is only theoretical, and any aliens capable of reaching us are unable to do so in an acceptable length of time. Proxima Centauri may take 25 years for unmanned spacecraft. to reach us going 20% the speed of light. But perhaps it's impossible to transport actual life at these speeds without dying. So advanced civilizations have realized the futility of trying to contact other species and have simply given up. Been searching for a comment saying gamma ray bursts. I remember when I was taught about them, I was gonna shit myself LMAO. I haven't heard about them until seeing it in a space documentary. They have compared them to gigantic Star Wars laser shots traveling through space. We're basically a speck of dust flying around an intergalactic battlefield. And it's just pure chance if we get hit or not. Good thing stormtroopers can't aim. Edit. Typo. I can't accept the fact that there is no end in space. But if there is indeed an end, then what's beyond it? I'm stuck in absurdity. Edit. In the numerous answers I've received, the one that seems to come back the most is the universe is curved. You would end up back where you started. Seems fair enough. Then again, that wouldn't mean there is no limit. On the contrary, that would just mean we are trapped in, or on the surface of, a sphere. But there is still a limit to this sphere. So the question remains, what's beyond it? At the end, there is either infinity or nothingness. And what the hell is my little brain supposed to do with that shit? I know, right? Our brains have no way to comprehend it. Like, I try to, but my brain is like, nah. I think the even harder thing to comprehend is the theory that there is no beginning to time. It's just always been. I know we all hate edits, but let me expand on this. We have been conditioned to believe from birth, even regarding our very own personal lives, that there has always been a first anything. Even when it comes to infinity, we all know that pi starts at 3, so there is no first thing that has ever happened in existence. Think about that. Even if it comforts you to know that there was no beginning to time, it's not exactly possible to comprehend. There is nothing, nowhere, never. Rogue planets. Planets that do not follow any given orbit. They may have been in an orbit at one time, but now they refuse to play by the rules. They were most likely knocked out of their orbit by another body, and now they are set on doing the same. There's a strangely artistic movie called Melancholia that has such a planet. That part of it is disturbing. Is it the Lars von Trier film that Mike Stocklesser likes to reference? Yes to the first one, and I don't know who the second one is. I don't even know if I can recommend it, because I still don't know if I even like it. But I've seen it twice and do think von Trier depicts major depressive disorder in a very accurate light. Kristen Dunst kills that role. Since we are on the subject of obscure art house space movies, and because I tend to ramble, I do recommend Another Earth. Super surreal artsy movie that was surprisingly touching. Another Earth is one of 2 movies I have literally said WTF at the end. No spoilers, but I have never been less satisfied at the conclusion of a movie. Edit. The other movie was Skyline. Felt that the movie was going so well until the final 20 minutes or so, and then the production shit the bed. And the credits were done so cheaply that they couldn't even just use the pictures of the cast. The Boots Void. An area of space where there should be 50,000 or so galaxies compared to other areas of the same size, but there's only about 60. Could just be empty space for some unknown reason. Or it could be an ever expanding intergalactic empire using Dyson spheres. Also, I think it appears to be growing, but that could just be galaxies moving away from the void. Edit. So it turns out it's 2000 and obviously it's not gonna be aliens, but the theory is still cool AF. If the Milky Way had been in the center of the Boots Void, we wouldn't have known there were other galaxies until the 1960s / Greg Aldering, astronomer. Well, that's crazy. We only discovered galaxies in 1924 though. Other galaxies were observed all the way back in the 17th century, but they just knew that they were fuzzy objects and what they called spiral nebulae. I think everything is terrifying about space, and I fucking love it. But one thing it scares me a lot. It's if space is infinite. Imagine what kind of gigantic monster can be in there. My favorite debate I've ever had with a friend is about gigantic space monsters. I argued that, since space is infinite, and we don't understand much about it, that there's a good chance that there's a gigantic space monster that's just a massive head that eats planets to live. We went back and forth for like 15 minutes. Edit. By the way, I won that debate. Just remember, an infinite domain does not have to contain all possibilities. Like how there are an infinite set of values between 1 and 2. All completely unique but none of which are 3. Since the universe is expanding, and stars and galaxies are moving away from each other, it's possible that civilizations that spring up in the far future with lonely stars will see an empty sky. Their civilizations will grow and learn, but they will never know the universe that once was. We live in a spectacular time period where we can actually look back in time and see the early universe. Future civilizations won't have that luxury. They'll believe that the universe is, and always was, dark, dead, and empty, aside from their small island of light. With that in mind, you have to wonder what stellar phenomena may have populated the universe billions of years ago, but are now too far away for us to ever detect. Thank you for the existential crisis. Ever thought about the distance between particles, scaled to their size, in a space? 2. Is whack. The sheer distance between things. It's scary and somewhat depressing. It often blows my mind when I look up at two stars that look super close together and realize they are probably just as far apart from each other as they are to us. When you look up at the night sky, in any urban areas or those with sufficient light pollution, the stars you see, think the constellations and other bright stars, with the exception of the super bright blue A-type stars. They are usually no further than 500 light years away. The biggest, brightest, non-A-type star in our typical night sky is also one of the biggest discovered in our galaxy, Betelgeuse. At 541 light years from Earth, is it the furthest star in the Orion constellation. Those A-types I mentioned can be seen to about 2000 light years away. Our galaxy is between 70,000 main core of stars and the limbs, and 150,000 the outliers before you get to the clouds, other galactic remnants from old collisions, light years across. Only seeing those stars that are 500 light years in radius gives us less than 1% of our galaxy to light up our night. Space. Space is unimaginably huge. Edited for clarity. Edit. Thank you all for your kind words and awards. What about in places with no or very little light pollution? I imagine that percentage gets a bit bigger, right? Yes. In places with, edit, little to no light pollution you can actually see the Milky Way, which looks like a haze or a visible nebula. It's not. It's a shit ton of densely packed stars in the center of our galaxy, which, comparatively, make up about the same amount of space as the unbroken yolk in a sunny side up fried egg. Our solar system is like 75-80% of the way towards the edge of the galaxy from the center. Edit. Apparently I've overstated the rarity of dark enough skies. There is literally no end to the universe. No matter how long we study it, there will always be stuff that we will never know, just because of the vastness of space. There could also be multiple universes, which is unbelievable considering that we know so little about our own, and several planes of existence. Perhaps this is just the material world and there is a whole infinitude of existence we can never see with our physical eyes. What was before the Big Bang? I think it is just impossible for a human to comprehend pure nothing or infinity. I myself had a stroke at age 9 due to a ruptured vertebral artery and lost a third of my visual field. I can confirm that it is not black. A good analogy is it is like what you see behind your head. On the other hand, infinity is so large that if you spent your whole life writing a 1 and zeros on paper, that insane number would still be 0% of infinity. I just think there is no way to fully understand the universe and there never will be. This is why even ancient societies explain things with gods, because they didn't understand how the reality we live in started, and I don't think we ever will. Since time began at the Big Bang, the term before is meaningless, but before that, I hate the concept of time-space irrelevancy. Like sure, there technically wasn't, but there also technically was. Just because there was nothing for reference doesn't mean there was nothing. Somebody much smarter is bound to come around and correct me, but I've just accepted that time-space has no beginning. Agree. Time is tied to space, but for the Big Bang to happen without a precursor violates causation. If we can assume it can't violate causation, then there must exist a before to provide cause. Our entire spacetime could be embedded within a higher dimensional spacetime containing the causal force behind the Big Bang, such that causality was not actually ever violated. But we can no more easily observe that force than a flatlander could observe a hypercube. Alternate explanation: causality is not obligated to work the way a bunch of apes suppose it ought to work. If you are new to Tattletale TV, please subscribe. I have new videos every day. Stay tuned right now for another